welcome to DivaSpeaks Relationship Ministries. My name is AnGala Portorreal, and I want to thank you for tuning in and stopping by. Yes, welcome to the show. If you have not had an opportunity to check out my website, I invite you to do so. The website is listed at the beginning of the show as well as the end of the show. It is a one-stop shop for all things DivaSpeaks related. I know that some of you are brand new to my platform and you're not familiar with me. My website is a one-stop shop on how to get familiar with me. It gives you access to my podcast. Yes, I do have a relationship podcast. It gives you access to my show, my hour-long show that airs on Access 21 every second and fourth Friday of the month, as well as my different social media platforms. So I invite you once again to check it out. I'll go ahead and give it to you since you're right here right now and I have your attention. My website address is DivaSpeaks-official.com. Once again, my web address is DivaSpeaks-official.com. Please check it out. It has all of my older television shows, as well as, once again, access to my podcast, access to my email address should you want to reach out, as well as it'll take you to my social media sites, my previous speaking engagement. All of that is right there at your fingertips. So once again, I invite you to check out the website. I'm super excited, guys, to be talking to you here tonight because I have a word, and that word is going to bless someone out there. Make no mistake about it. This word tonight is going to bless someone out there. So I'm just going to jump right into it, if that's okay with you, right? I got my notes. Listen, if this is your first time watching this show, I always have my notes. They're not as pretty or professional as maybe Miss Wendy or Miss Oprah or all of your major talk show hosts. I'm getting there. I'm going to order some. But right now, you got to watch the diva with her notes. The people on my podcast know I have notes, but they can't see me. They can only hear me. But for you, you get to see me right here, right now with my notes. If that's okay with you, what I have to say was so important that I didn't want to lose track of where I was going with it. So I felt it necessary to bring the notes out. I brought my weapon with me, okay? But tonight I want to talk to you about accidents, wrecks, and head-on collisions. Accidents, wrecks, and head-on collisions. Oh, yes. And you're probably wondering, well, where are you going with that? Okay, let me get to it. Have you ever been involved in a car accident or a wreck? No matter how minor or major it was. Do you remember what it felt like? Do you remember the events of that day? For some of you, it was horrific. For some of you, it probably took you a while to be able to feel safe and comfortable again in a vehicle. For some of you, you probably was injured during the wreck. And there are those who don't survive car accidents. We see them when we go up and down our freeways. And I dare to say, a lot of us take it for granted when we leave our homes and get in our vehicles that we're going to be making it back safe and sound and in one piece, right? Now that you have that image in your head, tonight's topic is, are you treating your relationship like an accident? I'm going to say it one more time. Are you guilty of treating your relationship, your marriage, like an accident? Now, I know those of you, I got some followers who are real cute. They was like, yes, honey, this was definitely an accident. This was a mistake. No, my sister and my brother, that is not what we're going to talk about tonight. That can be on my Access 21 show. But for here right now, this ministry, we're going to talk about accidents, wrecks, and head-on collisions. So I was listening to this sermon a few days ago, and the pastor was talking about witnessing a horrific accident as he was driving. And he went on to explain and describe what happened and how things played out. And once I heard him tell his story, make no mistake about it, I instantly thought of how that could relate and impact my audience and how I could relay the word to you. So the pastor goes on to explain the collision happened in front of him. And as soon as he had an opportunity to pull his vehicle over, he did so. As he was approaching the vehicle, he could see that the driver of the car that he approached was injured. He was slumped over the wheel. I don't remember if he said if there was blood or not, but clearly the driver was injured. And he said, I don't even know why I asked him this particular question. So he says, I asked the driver, do you want me to call the police? That's what he said. He said, I asked the driver, do you want me to call the police? And he said, the driver looked at him and says, I need you to call an ambulance. And it was at that moment that he realized, why didn't I think of that? So let's slow walk this. I'm gonna go right back. Let me go back over it. So as he was approaching the vehicle, he could see that the driver was injured, and he did what came natural to him. He wanted to offer help. His question was, do you want me to call the police? The driver's response was, I need you to call an ambulance. So my question tonight is, how many of you are guilty of wanting to call the police versus call the ambulance when your relationship has entered the danger zone? For those of you who are quick to say, well, let's call the police, are you looking to place blame on where you've landed? You want to establish who's at fault when you bring the police out onto the scene so they can assess what has happened, get it wrote down on paper, and you can feel right about who was right, who was wrong, who's at fault, and who's not. Are you guilty of wanting the police at the scene of your accident, your head-on collision in your relationship right now? Or are you one of the ones who understand that you've just been involved in a collision? You know that you've been hurt. You don't need anybody other than someone who can administer medical assistance. You require an ambulance. You see, there are those who require the police because all they care about is determining or establishing who's right and who's wrong, who's at fault. They want to place blame somewhere. They're looking to point the finger. I need to know who caused the accident. I need to prove that I'm right. And you got those who understand that we have both suffered an injury due to this impact, due to this collision. And I don't care who's right or who's wrong right now. All I care about is getting the medical help and assistance that I need, because clearly we've got some damages to assess. Yes, there is somebody out there that don't give a hoot about establishing the right and the wrong when we're both hurting right now. We're hurting. We're bleeding. We've been injured. There's broken bones, broken promises, broken hearts, broken dreams. All I care about right now is healing. I need to heal. You need to heal. Who's right and who's wrong don't even matter at this point. Things are so bad between us. We need to fix this if we are going to survive. Yes, you have been involved in an accident. And you know what? Since you can establish that both of you or one of you is in critical condition, I want you to rethink who you're going to call now. Now that I've painted that picture and I've described the scene, who are you going to call? What's more important to you? Do you value the vehicle? Do you value the lives? Do you value if you can even pick up and continue on? Or have you suffered a loss? Some of you have assessed the damages in this relationship or in this marriage, and you have determined that it is a total loss. That's the truth. That's just the truth of it. I mean, in an ideal world, all of us could resolve our differences and be able to mend, heal, and go on with our lives. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes when you had a head-on collision, there is a total loss. Some people don't want to continue the journey. Sometimes the relationship can get so bad that you have to total the vehicle. You know what I'm talking about. And then you got those that, they don't really necessarily care if the car gets fixed. They don't care if the marriage or the relationship gets fixed. They're not looking to be healed because they want another vehicle. They want a newer vehicle. That's right. That's right. They want a newer vehicle. They don't want to take this vehicle that's been involved in this accident, in this collision. They don't want to take it to the body shop and get it all fixed up. They don't want to put in the work. They would just rather total it, call it a loss, and go get another one. Is that the reason why you're so quick to call the police out onto the scene? But there is hope for those who understand that there's been a lot of damage in this relationship, in this marriage. We've had a loss. We've suffered a loss. Oh, yes. And you might be asking, loss of what? Give me an example. Okay, I'm with you. Because you've been negligent. Whether that was intentional or unintentional, life happens to us all. Okay? Maybe you were negligent in not paying attention to the road being your partner, your spouse, putting in the effort into your marriage and your relationship as you should because you're preoccupied with other people, places, and things. Maybe you have a busy schedule. Maybe you have a busy job, or, you have a career that is very demanding of your time. Maybe you're raising or rearing small children. Maybe you have elderly parents that you have to attend to. Life is happening to all of us, but understand your marriage does not have to take a back seat or should not take a back seat to anything or anyone else. Your first ministry should be your relationship, your marriage, okay? Your marriage. But because you've been negligent, maybe you forgot to put in the time and the work needed to keep this thing afloat, to make sure that the vehicle stays on track or on its course. And as a result of the collision, you've suffered a loss of communication. You've suffered a loss of trust, intimacy, a loss, respect, gone, a loss, desire, loss, chop it up, gone, loss. You don't even desire to fellowship with your spouse anymore because the two of you have disconnected. You've disconnected. You're being negligent. You're not paying attention to the signs that are right in front of you because you're too preoccupied. Maybe you're self-absorbed. But only you can answer that question. Have you been putting in the work, the time, and the attention needed to make sure that your marriage or your relationship didn't get involved into an accident? And if you know that you've been negligent, whether it was intentional or not, whether you meant for this to happen or not, you have to acknowledge the destination. What has happened? What has happened? You've been in an accident. You're in critical condition. This is going to require some help. May need some body work. You may need some body work. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in acknowledging that you've ended up in a place that you didn't set out. Where you started and where you ended up is not what you wanted for yourself. It's not what you wanted. But you have the power to change things. You have the power to say, you know what? I'm going to take an assessment of these damages. Yeah, it looks bad. It is bad. It's bad right now. But just because we can total this car don't mean that we can't be reborn again in this marriage, in this relationship through Christ. That's right, who strengthens you. All things are possible through Christ who strengthens you. Understand that. Okay? My previous sermon said death does not necessarily or does not have to be the end. If you have to total the car and you have to get a new one, let the new one be a new beginning in your marriage, in your relationship. And this time, when you get behind the wheel of it, you're going to pay attention to the spouse. You're going to be attentive to your spouse's needs. You're going to be active and involved and be present in your partner's life. Because if you don't, now you've seen the results of what can happen. What can happen? You can end up in a head-on collision and end up in a place that you don't want to be. And you're lucky if you're able, strike that, I take that back. You're blessed if you're able to walk away from it with your dignity and your relationship intact. What are you going to do next? You've ignored the signs. Or maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was your spouse, okay? Maybe it was your spouse. But the question is still, what are you going to do? You've suffered a loss, but all is not loss. You've had a loss of communication, a loss of intimacy, a loss of respect and trust. You stopped fellowship and you stopped talking to each other. The communication has broken down, totally gone. What are you going to do? Are you going to work towards a better relationship? Are you going to work towards having an open line of communication? Are you going to work towards not pointing the finger every time something happens and there's a disagreement? And let me tell you something else. It is not that serious where you need to beat your spouse over the head in the matters that you feel vindicated. Is it really worth it to beat that person down and to beat their spirit down? You're wrong. I'm right. You need to see it my way. It's not worth it. Do you want peace or do you want to be right? Do you want a happy and healthier relationship or do you want to be right? Does it mean so much to you to be right and to collect all of your partner's or your spouse's wrong that you end up losing the marriage, you end up losing the relationship in the course of, because you want to feel vindicated, because you have this obsession with being right? Is it worth it? And does that exhibit Christ-like qualities? Should you not be extending grace and mercy to your partner and in your relationship, in your marriage, as Christ do you? Are you exhibiting Christ-like behaviors when you are dealing with your spouse, when you are dealing with your loved ones? The greatest commandment in the Bible tells us to love one another. Does your spouse feel loved? The way that you interact with them, does it say that I love you? Even when you feel that you are right and they are wrong, are you talking to them with the respect and the love in your voice that Christ requires? Or are you being hostile in an effort to beat them down and make them see your point of view? How much are you willing to lose just because you want to be right? Do you want to total the car? Do you want to total the marriage? Do you want to chalk it up as a loss and just go get you another one? Because if you continue down this road, you may not have another choice. That may be your only choice. My friends, I plead with you tonight that if you know that your relationship is in critical condition, if you know that you have now entered into troubled waters, if you know that where you guys are is not where you want to be, if it's not where you have started, it is not too late to call on someone for help. It can start tonight with a simple prayer. Ask God to come into your heart and to come into your spouse's or your partner's heart. Ask God to come back and revisit this relationship and this marriage. All is not lost, okay? The Bible says what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Don't be guilty of self-sabotage in your own relationship and your own marriage. Don't get so full of pride and ego that you fail to see that all of us sin and fall short. All of us do. What is it worth to you to salvage your marriage, to enter into calmer waters? What is it worth to you? Can you do that? Can you extend the person that you love, the person that you have entered into this threefold covenant with, the grace and mercy that you plead with God to extend to you? Accidents, wrecks, and head-on collisions. Some of you got there because you wasn't paying attention. I just talked about that. So now that you know what can happen as a result of you not paying attention, your relationship and your marriage being what you need to pay attention to, what are you going to do? Are you going to be intentional with making sure that you're paying attention to your spouse, to the person that you say you love, being active and present in their life? Are you going to do that? I pray God's will over your life, over your marriage and your relationship. I pray that this message has blessed someone out there tonight. I pray that the will of God is executed over your life and over your relationship, and that your home, your marriage, your relationship receive all of God's goodness and blessing. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. If you have enjoyed this particular segment, if it has blessed you, I ask of you that you would share it with your friends and family and ask them to check out the show. Until next week, join me right back here at DivaSpeaks Relationship Ministries, and the Diva has spoken.